Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Ask Me Anything, BYOB Money Multiplier Wednesday Happy Hour edition. We're here coming live and direct from the Stanley Cup Championship of the World, South Florida, and up to New York, across the California, and everywhere in between. So we'll introduce the team and what's going on. Before we do that, though, start getting your questions in the chat box. We're going to answer all your questions. Ask me anything. Anything means anything. Get those questions in there. We'll answer those questions. Before we go around the horn and introduce everybody and get those questions going, let's go ahead and have a quick little commercial brought to you by the world champion Florida Panthers. Here we go.
Isn't that a football team?
We'll refresh here on the page, and let's see it, baby.
Let's go! Let's go, boys!
Has that ever happened before? Has the Stanley Cup ever been in the ocean before?
So I think that might be the first time the Stanley Cup's ever been in the ocean. I don't know the answer to that, but I'm going to pretend it is because I think it's awesome. So go Panthers and
Go Panthers. Steven,
that's that for today. So with that being said, we'll go around the horn, and Jason wants to talk, so we'll start with Jason.
Yeah, I want to go first. I'm going to go at the bottom of the page going first. So I was sent a picture of the elbow room. It's where I spent my only spring break. Drove all the way from Rochester, New York, and ended up at the elbow room for about 12 hours straight, and saw a picture that they were celebrating there. So it brought me back. So go Panthers. There it is. That picture.
Oh!
My roommate sent me that, my old college roommate. I was there drinking at the bar with sunglasses on at night like Corey Hart by the end of that 12-hour stint there.
That's the elbow bar.
Let's go up in the middle. That's so weird. Oh, we'll go this way to Joe. Hi, Joe.
Hello.
Yourself.
Joe from Buffalo, Mr. Helock, Forklift, whoever else you want to call me. Here helping people figure out what's going on.
So I just fell asleep, man.
What?
Joe from Buffalo. Come on, man. Where's your energy?
I just left and trying to get on here.
I'm Joe K from New York. I help people heal. I move my money around.
Different Joe.
I click and pop and
Pick you
tell
up
you
in the chair because I'm really strong.
There you go.
Here, Steven, so he starts really laughing.
Just a quick reminder to get your questions in so we can move on from our silliness and answer your questions. Get those questions going. Go, Joe.
I don't want to do this no more. I'm just scared. You know who I am. Just keep going. I got Shauna laughing, so that's all that matters.
Up to Linus.
Yes, sir. Jason, no way you're falling asleep. You just told me you had coffee at this hour. What? Hey,
I was just talking about Joe's energy.
I hear you. Hey, my name is Linus Nolt. I'm from Hopkinsville, Kentucky. I'm doing great. Like I told Carson earlier, I'm doing great. Really, I'm thriving, helping more people get what they want so that I can get what I want. I'm learning a little bit about boundaries. It's 3:30 where I'm at. I'm only starting to eat lunch. So that's what my day is looking like.
I don't know what you learned about boundaries, though. What'd you learn about boundaries?
He's got to start tomorrow.
I still didn't get lunch, or breakfast.
His boundaries are he's not telling you what they are. That way he can move them if he needs to. All right.
Thanks, Craig. Thanks.
And you drop some Zig Ziglar information in there as well about helping as many people get what they want so you get what you want. Love it. It's good stuff. Anyway, Craig Yenny, I am from south of Denver, Colorado. We're now experiencing some of that lovely summer heat. I know the people in Florida are going to laugh, but it's in the 90s. Anyway, nice and dry and hot out here, but just busy away. We got a lot of events coming up. So we have the Mastermind in Nashville in October, getting ready, put some content together for that. We've got an advanced training in August. We've got a 3-day session coming up in August. We've got a Coley presentation coming up in July. So there's lots of stuff that we're getting ready to share with the community and the campfire. So busy building content for some of that. Here to answer your questions. And so now we're on to Carson.
Well, you're getting me excited, man. Now I'm ready to watch all these webinars and keep learning from our team. That's awesome. This is Carson Herline coming to you guys from Southern California, on the other side of the coast for most of these guys over in Florida and New York. But we're doing great out here as well. I've been gone the past like 3 weeks, I believe, just at different events, different like webinars I'm doing. So it's been busy and really good, and I'm working on presenting more and stuff. So that's been fun. But that's it for me. I'm ready to be here, guys. Let's go up to Mr. Brian.
Hey, everybody, Brian Fouts up here. Actually, I can't think about where I'm at today. I'm in northern Idaho this week and probably next week with some family stuff, traveling as always, and doing a lot of actually complex cases and calls today, solving a lot of problems. It's been a really cool past week and a half. We had some really challenging scenarios and case studies, and we're solving some problems that I think are pretty unique that other people couldn't do. And so I'm pretty proud of our team being able to do that. So there we go. Over to Shauna.
Hi guys, I'm Shauna. I'm up here in Western New York with Chris and Joe. I also got excited today because earlier this morning we had a call with the Charlotte Motor Raceway or Speedway or something like that. So if you went to our Vegas experience, I guess they're owned by the same company where the raceway that we went to in Vegas owns this place in Charlotte, and we're gonna do our Money Tank Private Money Club event there in November this year. And that's all I have. And we're back to Stephen.
Now we're back to Stephen Nagy. Enhance.
I do see in the questions we had Megan Stevens kind of puts them in there to start with, and then I don't see any more in there just yet. So, but these look kind of involved, so we'll start with Megan. So Megan's saying, my partner told me she was told by her money person to put all of her check in a 401k so her and her wife would not have to claim it at the end of the year, and it would save them 24% at tax time. So that's part one. Her wife makes upwards of $200,000, and they were told that with my partner's income going into a 401k, the wife would also be able to start a 401k because with my partner's income, she makes too much to start. This does not sound right to me. Can you explain to me why they would be told this?
Hey, Shauna, can we throw the disclaimer up before we say anything about this?
Yeah.
Okay,
Let me find it real quick.
I'll say, and I'm gonna let Craig respond, but I'm gonna say if you're asking traditional questions, you're gonna get traditional answers. And let Craig go from there.
Well, I mean, I can jump in. Everyone can kind of chime in on this. There's a lot here. So the first piece I would say is that very first sentence, we're already off track because you can't put all of your paycheck into the 401k. There are certain limits of what you can put in. I think this year it's 24,000, what you can put in. But even at that, I mean, what are you trying to accomplish? I think a lot of this is going to come down to what are you trying to accomplish? So you're trying to save some temporary tax deductions now, and what's the future, options for you. So anyway, there's a lot of stuff here. I don't know if anyone else wants to jump in, but I think the first thing is you have to think about how much can go in there. What are you trying to do long-term, short-term? Once you put your money in the 401k, it's harder to, get at it. I mean, you're simply putting that money into like a 401k jail. But anyway, I've got my own
money in prison. Don't do it. Don't put your money in prison.
Yeah, I mean, I've got my own feelings of 401k. I don't, back when I had the option to do one, I didn't do one. But anyway, Brian, what do you have to say about this? Because I know you dig into this stuff quite a bit too.
I mean, the bottom line is I'd ask, we kind of talked about it here a bit ago, but do you trust the IRS? Do you believe the IRS has your best interest at heart? Do you think they're the best stewards of your money? Well, what does IRS stand for? Internal, meaning they're internal to the government. Revenue, meaning their job is to generate revenue for the government. And service means they serve not you, they serve the government. That's the way I interpret IRS. So if the answer is no, that you don't believe they have your best interest at heart, why would you put your money in their hands and in their control?
Brian, it goes a
That's
step
bottom line.
further. The IRS is not a government entity. It is a privately owned. It's like the Federal Reserve. It is, so it's not even the government. It's something that is separate. It is about, like, if you think about it, how many trillions of dollars are in 401ks and how many trillions of dollars the government is in debt and how fast that's going up. At some point, someone's going to have to pay the bill. Who's it going to be? Like, someone's going to get paid the tax bill. So when I think the one thing I wanted to say about this is, when you look at the word deferred just means delayed. Like, it sounds like a much nicer word and it makes us feel okay. Like, hey, we're going to save taxes now for later. We don't have to worry about it. We're just going to kick the can on down the road, is what's said all the time. But you're really delaying the inevitable. And you don't know what that's going to be. You have no idea what the contract is. You don't know if the only way your taxes are going to be less is if you make less when you retire. And if you're looking to have less, to be camping out, to not have the things that you might want to have in retirement, then that might be the right plan. Otherwise, you're setting yourself up for something that you don't really want.
Yeah, and to that point, Jason, I think what you almost have to think about is, a lot of times we're told we will be in a smaller tax bracket when we retire, which means, do you want to have a lesser lifestyle of income than you have now? So that'd be one choice you have to make. And then the other one is, do you think that tax rates are heading up or down in the future? Because right now, if you're putting money into a system thinking that taxes are going to be higher, I don't understand why you'd want to do that. Why would you want to put money at a lower tax rate to be taxed higher at a future point in time? So a lot of it's going to come down to, what do you believe is happening with tax rates? Do you intend on having less income in your retirement years? And do you want to wait until your retirement years to use this money? So those would be some questions I'd be asking.
The other thing I look at too is with a 401k is, like, let's say you have a 401k, you put $1,000 into it. What's the value that your family has if something happens to you tomorrow? $1,000. That's it, right? So if you're thinking about, taking care of your loved ones, making sure they're secure, generational wealth, passing wealth on, when you compare it to something like infinite banking, day one of infinite banking, you have a guaranteed generational wealth strategy in place. Day one. You put $1,000 into infinite banking, you're going to have 50, 100, 200, whatever it is, $1,000 of guaranteed tax-free generational wealth. There's no other vehicle that has that. So also keep those kinds of pros and cons in mind when you look at a 401k, because a 401k doesn't have any of those kinds of things. It's not private. It's actually a public strategy, as we call it. And so it doesn't have some of those other aspects that other things have. So just keep that in mind.
But Brian, that $1,000 that you just put into the 401k and you take it out, it's only $900 now. You forgot about the 10% penalty.
Yep, exactly.
Penalty, taxes, making less when you retire than working for 50 years. Why'd you work for 50 years if you plan on making less when you retire? Did your ears just hear what your mouth said? Why are they telling us this?
There's my takeaway from this whole day. Did your ears just hear what your mouth said? Thank you for that. Everybody write that down. Write it down.
Write it down. Put it down in notes. Today is the day that you're going to pay the least amount of taxes.
Love it.
You might need a new money person or whatever they are.
Yeah.
Assets under management. If you ever want to understand how they make money and why they want you to put all your money into a 401k, look up the term assets under management.
I like that.
Yeah. They get
And
money for
also-
telling you what to do with it.
Yeah, take a look at Google this, SEC impact of fees. So if you Google that, you'll see kind of what Brian's talking about with assets under management, the fees. I mean, it gets a little crazy. But anyway, I think Megan's got another zinger for us.
Yes, so she's got question 2. So she says, I am new to the business, and my field trainer tried to start me in a $50,000 IUL with a $250,000 term rider. I do not feel like IULs are the best choice, but am I just not understanding IULs? And then quick about her, 40 years old, good health with debt repayment as main focus and making extra income.
There's a lot to unpack in that one, but
before we went live, Megan, we were talking about exactly this. So I don't know if Carson wants to jump in. I see him at the ready, leaning forward. But
I mean, you can take this any way you want. I mean, IUL conversation, any VULs, all that stuff is just fun to talk about. You're preaching to the choir here. We're talking about how wondering if you want an IUL or not. It depends what you want. Like every answer we give you, it depends what you want, because if you're looking for a system to do banking with, then you need a system that will be continuously growing and compounding for you, while you also have liquidity to do what you want, where cost of insurance or the cost of the policy is decreasing over time while your cash value is growing, giving you that stability and safety in what you're doing with your future. An IUL doesn't really have any of that. It's an investment and term insurance combined. So as you get older, the term insurance is going to increase. You're going to have more cost of insurance. You're going to owe more to the insurance company. And it's going to be fluctuating based on how the S&P or whatever index fund or mutual fund the company's invested in. And it'll go up and down forever. Sometimes you'll be okay. Sometimes it won't. And so it's just a completely different product. It's meant for people who want to invest and want some sort of insurance coverage. And even for those people, I don't even know if it makes sense. So
yeah,
go for it, Jason.
I was going to say, it's made for people who want something for nothing. It's made for people who want to believe that by scratching a lottery ticket, it's going to solve all of your problems.
Yeah.
And the problem is who's in, like, Megan, do you want to be in control of your money? That's the question I have for you. Do you want to be in control of your money? Do you want to be the one that your success hinges on you doing the things that you need to do? Or do you want to tie it to, like Carson just said, to a market that's going to fluctuate no matter what? It always has. And do you want to give up the control to the life insurance company because they can turn the dials on it?
Well,
so would be my questions.
Was she told that we can use this as a banking policy? So, Carson, I want a $50,000 IUL and I want to use it for banking. When can I use the money?
Who knows how long?
3 years, 4 years? Okay, so I won't use banking for 3 or 4 years, so I guess I can't spend any money.
This is her field trainer too. So this mean Megan's she's new to the business. She's in the business. Megan, you should come here more often, hang out with us, come to our other shows. I'm doing a show tomorrow, at 3 p.m. Eastern. Chris does, I don't know how many shows now, like 5 a week. Shows on Monday, on Tuesday, Wednesday show. We do shows all week. We're giving away our best information for free. Come and hear what we're talking about. Come hear what the people who work with us are saying and asking, and just make up your own decisions. Because, and what a business. Your field trainer's trying to sell you a $50,000 IUL with a rider. I don't know. That makes me want to take a shower.
All right.
Shauna, I'm going to go ahead and post a link on the private side. Can you put that into the group? So Megan may want to watch this video. It's where Chris goes through and digs pretty deeply into the differences between IULs, whole life, specifically around infinite banking. So if you want to really get into the details of why we take this position and some of the pitfalls and things to look at, watch that video.
I love it. Thanks.
Greg, you must be like an infinite banking certified practitioner with the amount of knowledge you have and stuff. Is that true?
Why, yes, I am. I just passed
felt
my
like your
test.
knowledge has risen so much. Is that, yeah.
Yeah, I just passed my test this week after reading this book.
That's not a book. That's not a book. You can't even carry it on when you bring it on the plane, they say it's too big to put in overhead.
Well, I have ways of dealing with that with my technology skills. I'm able to scan and make my own Kindle book.
Oh my God, you would.
I tried to bring it to the airport, and they told me to put it in that little thing, and it didn't fit. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah. But it really is a good program, and it goes into a lot of details on specifically, why infinite banking was created, and it's got the background about Austrian economics and why the banking system, the Federal Reserve, the government. it's stealing wealth from all of the people when you really understand what's going on. And it reminds me of a quote. I think it came from Henry Ford, and he said something, don't quote me word for word, but it's something along the lines of, if the public knew what was really going on in the banking system, there would be a revolt tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yes, I've heard that quote before.
Stephen Nagy, where do most Austrian economists live?
Where did in Austria?
In a house.
No, most of them are in the U.S. these days. The original guys came from Austria. So
Puerto
funny.
Rico?
that was a fun fact. They live in Florida with us. Best country in the world.
You guys are so funny.
Only place you can bring the Stanley Cup in the water.
So Eve also said, do you have all these events listed on your website? I have a few today that I can share with you, Eve. So what we've got the Private Money Club Money Tank in-person event. That's going to be November 8th and 9th in Charlotte, North Carolina. So you can go to privatemoneyclub.com/moneytank. And then there's the 3-day virtual, which, Craig just was pointing out that he's been learning so much. So I know that he's going to be bringing some extra snazziness to the 3-day coming up in August. So we've got the 3-day virtual, which is August 23rd, 24th, 25th. And you go to moneyschooltraining.com/registration for that one.
I think Craig's an AI. Just saying. Like if he's creating all these things and at the same time taking the IBC practitioner and studying, man.
Weekends, evenings, no sleeping.
Okay, True Blue is saying, how exposed are insurance companies in terms of mortality due to COVID-19 countermeasures? How do I choose a healthy mutual insurance company with this considered?
I mean, you can go look at the ratings. I mean, that's one of the best ways is go look at the ratings that each company has. The ones we work with are the top rated companies, been around for 100 plus years. They've been around, through all the other previous, events and been just fine. So that's one way to look at it.
I would say that they haven't just been around. They've all been profitable for 100 to 160 plus years consecutively. Profitable every single year, True Blue. So you want to look at that. You want to make sure they're mutually owned. You want to look at, do they support infinite banking if this is what you're trying to do? And with COVID-19, I would let the government and other people I let other people worry about that question. I would just look at the financial stability of the company and see what it's looked like since COVID.
I don't know if
anybody on this panel.
I think it was One America. I don't know if it was One America or Lafayette. They did a stress test and pretend to paid on paper everybody that has a policy because of COVID-19. And there was something crazy, like $10 billion still left in the general fund. Steven, you remember that? What were those numbers?
That's what I was going to say. They had billions of dollars left over after they pay all the death benefits. It was One America.
It was One America? All right. Yeah. So I just wanted to make sure that I was right with my company. So that there was already a stress test due, and that's why we only work with the top companies. One America, Lafayette, SML. Those are our, go-tos for being a non-direct, mutually owned company that want to do and perform IBC.
And to what you just said, Joe, it just proves the long-term thinking and planning that these mutual companies put into their portfolios and investment strategies. Because unlike a banking, a commercial bank that does fractional reserve and lends out more than they actually have, the insurance company is regulated at every state, and they have to have the money to cover the death benefit that's on the books. So what Joe was just talking about is they not only have the money to cover the death benefit, but they have more than that.
Right.
A lot more. I want to say of the portfolio, of the $30 billion portfolio of the company that we're talking about, I want to say less than 6% was the liquid amount of cash that's there to cover all of the death benefits. So they have to keep that money in like a low interest bearing account, so it's immediately available. It's not tied up in something else. It has to be available. Just to give you an idea of how they've stayed profitable no matter what's happened in our country, whether it's war, whether it's the Great Depression. I mean, all the companies we work with were all profitable throughout the Great Depression. So
I love it. And then
on the topic of COVID, there's a question further down there from Jacob Bentley. Just simply says, how can you do infinity banking without a COVID vaccine? And Jacob, I think you're asking whether you can get a policy without a COVID vaccine. Oh, totally. I mean, they don't differentiate with people that have it or don't have it. And I'm living proof you can live without one. So, hey, there you go.
I think we all are.
yeah, same. And then also True Blue's last part of the question is, how do I choose? They said, how do I choose the company to work with? And I just want to point out that how you choose it with us. So you can do that choice with us. You can go to mentors.beyourownbanker.com, get on a call with one of the gentlemen you see on the screen here, and you and your mentor can choose the best company to work with. Okay, well, Jacob had another question too. I just got a mortgage. How can this banking help me pay my mortgage off and help me become wealthy?
A lot more into that question that we would need. Yeah, so it's funny. I just had this conversation with somebody here about an hour and a half ago, and Joe, we might be talking about this client actually on this call because we need more information, bottom line, to be able to answer that question. But oftentimes it's not just infinite banking. It might be a combination of a few things you have. Because you have a mortgage, you have a home, you might have equity. There's a couple strategies you can come with infinite banking, such as a first lien HELOC that Joe can talk about, that can really help accomplish that. So it can oftentimes be a multiple strategies in place to do that. But Joe, you can talk about it more.
So when you get a mortgage, that's called amortization. Amortization is, I call it doubles arithmetic, because it's the way that the bank calculates how much you're going to pay back. On a 3% amortized mortgage, it turns out to be approximately 12% simple interest. And you're going to be at approximately 44% on the payback of that mortgage. So now, just because you look at the mortgage and say, oh, but it's 3%, that's not really the real number. You're only putting in the exact number that goes to the principal. In order to create and readjust those numbers inside the logarithm, inside of those numbers, you have to pay more to the principal in order to upset the apple cart, if you will, with the interest that is already predetermined with a 15-year or a 30-year mortgage. The more that you put into it is the velocity. So when we create of the velocity and you turn that mortgage into a HELOC, now you're paying yourself back. You're in control. We teach you two things: be in control and pay yourself first. So you're not in control with the mortgage. You are with a HELOC. It's more liquid. You're paying yourself first. And people say, well, I have a savings account. I'm like, well, fine. You have a savings account and you have a mortgage. So why don't you take the savings account and put it into the principal of your mortgage? Well, what happens if I need that money? Exactly. So if you had a HELOC, which is liquid, you could take that savings account, put it in, pay down the principal of what you owe, and it's still there if you need it. So it just depends. Why would anybody go for a mortgage when they can go get a HELOC? And yes, you can purchase a house originally with a HELOC. You don't have to have a mortgage and have a house and get a HELOC. You can purchase a house with a HELOC. Just because you didn't know it could happen doesn't mean that there's not a product out there that you can do it with.
Yep. And then I'll add on to that one. I have a client that we spoke to here a bit ago. They had a foreclosure about a little over 3 years ago. So they were asking, well, and they still have the home, by the way. They got it redone. They have a mortgage in place. It's got like 23, 24 years left on it. They're a single income family. Almost no other debt, does not know his credit yet score, but he's going to go look at that. And so he was asking, I'd love to pay off the mortgage with infinite banking. and they can start a small policy with a small, dump in. So what Joe just said is what I was explaining to this client. It's like, well, one of the best ways would be to combine infinite banking with a first lien HELOC potentially if you qualify. And so what Joe just said is exactly right with this kind of client. So I'm going to be talking to this client and possibly talking with Joe. What this client could do is wait till the foreclosure is, I think it's another year back, right, Joe? Like 4 years.
4 years. 4 years.
Yeah. So they'll do infinite banking today to go do some purchases for like a car. They want to do a car purchase. So they'll do infinite banking on that. Once the 4 years is up and their credit is above, 660 or 700, then we can look at doing a first lien HELOC, then to start using infinite or velocity banking to recapture the payments. And there you go. And they'll, instead of being 22 years, it'll be 6 years, 7 years, whatever it ends up being, to pay that mortgage off. And they have infinite banking at the same time. Then all of a sudden at the end of 6 years, they have $400,000 of equity in their home they can leverage to build wealth. Well, with infinite banking of, I think it was about $75,000 of cash value at that point in time, all of a sudden this person goes from in debt with a mortgage, no infinite banking, to having $475K of liquidity available for investing purpose and building wealth. Completely shifts their mindset and their financial life. Like, that's what's powerful. That's what's possible.
Amazing.
Yeah, and part of the question that you have to ask yourself is, with your mortgage, how much lazy money do you have sitting there in the rafters doing nothing? And if you were to crack that open and you could put that to work, that lazy money could be accelerating the whole pay down of your mortgage. So it's, yes, I will agree, it does add one element of risk. So if you take some of that money, put it into an investment that I can understand, there's a little bit of risk there, but you can pay down that mortgage a lot faster when you start using that equity to do something like that. So a lot of different options, but it's a great thing to take a look at. And to Joe's point, there's so many people out there that don't know what the first lien HELOC is. I've got, friends in real estate, and they've never heard of this thing, and they're just like, how can you be in real estate and not know about this tool? So,
Yep.
And then here's just a quick question. Jason, Elizabeth's asking for your direct email.
Okay, it is, what is it? It is jason@themoneymultiplier.com.
Okay.
I really had to think about that for a second.
I know. Okay, J10 is asking, any illustrations you show that pay into PUAs past 10 years? I'd like to be able to pay into for 20 years and use for retirement. Wouldn't the 90-10 make more sense in this case?
That's a great one right there.
Jay, you're here every week. We love you, man. What do you love about the 90-10? Type it into the chat. Why do you love the 90-10? You ask us about the 90-10 all the time.
But yeah, most of the
I have a question.
I do can go past 10 years. We show it not stopping at 10 years, but
Now you need a J10. You need to have a dump in with this, okay? But if you were to do a dump in and do a 90-10, you will not be able to get a money tree in year 2 because it just wouldn't work. That needs to be at least a 50-50 or probably a 60-40 in order to get a money tree in year 2 because of the amount of the dumping that goes in. So not always does a 90-10 even make sense, because I want a money tree as efficient as possible in the years efficient. Doesn't matter how much money I have right away. If I become efficient and start making money in year 2, isn't that what we're trying to accomplish here? Cash flow as soon as possible. So there's just a different way.
I think what we're trying to accomplish is to take back all the functions of the bank. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just did a policy earlier at 50-50, and it's like 91% year 1 and like 112% year 2. It just goes from there. Like, it's wild because it's got a good dump in there.
but what's a 50-50? What's a 60-40? What does this stuff mean? If we have new people, they're like, what in the heck are they talking about?
Same thing as a 90-10.
What's that?
I don't know. I haven't gone through it yet. I just got it. I don't know.
Okay. Joe, maybe you can tell us, what is this 50-50 you speak of?
How much goes to base? How much goes to PUA? What is PUA? Paid up additions. That is the amount of money that is tangible. That is the amount of money that is created for the banking purpose for you to utilize. The base is what the amount that goes for the death benefit.
So if I go down the street to my State Farm office and ask for one of these whole life policies, what's my split going to be?
Huh? 100% to the base. We don't know
100% to the
else.
base. So think of it as a teeter-totter. The more that goes to the base, the higher the death benefit, lower cash value. The less it goes to the base, the less the death benefit, the more cash value. So all of these numbers we're talking about is just simply turning those dials. Like J10 asked about a 90-10. He's saying take 90% of what you're putting into the policy and put that into the cash, which makes very small death benefit, which means in order to satisfy the IRS and not have this become something called a modified endowment contract, there has to be some more insurance in there. And so there's going to be some cost in there. And this is what we're talking about. These are all the ingredients. We're like your IBC cooks in the kitchen. We're stirring up all these ingredients to find the best policy for you. It could be a 60-40, could be a 50-50, could be a 75-25. We'll help you with that so you don't have to get all stressed out about which one you should have.
Yeah.
And Jay, if you're looking to put money in later, why would you want a 90-10? Like I'm really asking you to put the thought process in the chat so we can help understand, because you've asked us a bunch and that means we haven't gotten to the answer that you're looking for. Like we haven't been able to show you what it is. Because like 10%, like in a $10,000 a year policy, if it's a 90-10, that means there's 1,000 going to the base. That means in year 11, you can only put 1,000 in. And you're asking, and that's when the policy is really efficient. That's when it's basically you're putting $1 in, you can use 2. So you're going to put 1,000 in year 11 and have $2,000 available. Why would you want
the minimum in that year?
Yeah, why would you want that minimum? Then that's not thinking long term. Like the first principle and everything we're doing is think long term, think multi-generational, think past when you're going to be alive, what this looks like. And if you start thinking like that, your questions will shift just over time. But I really do want to understand, because Jay has asked that question at least 3 or 4 times if we went back, right?
Right. And then just really quickly, James brought up a good point. Can you remind us what money tree means when we're saying that?
Well, real quick on the 90-10, and I can answer that question too. But on the 90-10, like I guarantee you, in the third year of the policy, your cash value is the exact same as if it was a 70-30 or an 80-20. Pennies apart from one another. So who cares if you have access to 10% more money in year number 1 if you're going to have much more for the rest of your life? Mm-hmm. Like you might have access to a little bit more today, but that's not the point, like Jason said, of why we're doing this. It's not for today. It's a long-term thing. It's a marathon, like we say in our presentation. But so James, he asking about money tree. That's what Joe always talks about with this policy. He likes talking about when it's a money tree, right? So that's the point in which your premium goes in and your cash value grows by more than your premium in that specific year. So if you're putting 10 grand a year in premium every year, year number 1, you put in 10, your cash value is 7 grand, right? Year 2, you put in 10 grand, your cash value is 9 grand. Year 3, you put in 10 grand, you have access to $10,000, 100% of what you just put in as premium. Boom. That means from the third year on, every year the rest of your life, every dollar you ever put in, you'll have access to more, and it will exponentially grow.
And what's the force making that happen?
All these dollars you're putting in as premium will be earning an interest and dividend with the insurance company. You're growing as the company grows every single year while you have the cash value available. You can take out, put back in, use for investments, whatever you want. And the entire time you're leveraging against yourself, your premium dollars are still compounding, which is why we call this financing through whole life, because you can finance these things throughout your life while earning a dividend, while having a death benefit, protecting you from any taxes. It's a way to use your money more efficiently.
What is the 8th wonder of the world? Uninterrupted compounding interest.
Okay.
Perpetual tailwind.
So we have
Jason's like
15 minutes left and some really good questions. So Ray is saying, what are your thoughts on leveraging credit to fund a whole life, using the credit card to fund whole life to move more quickly into a residual producing asset to then pay back the whole life?
Me no likey.
Well, that's what I use. I use credit. My HELOC is using credit. So it depends on what kind of credit you're actually using.
I was thinking he was talking about credit cards, but
So he is.
Yeah, with
he
the
is
exception of a HELOC, we'll say.
He is talking about credit cards. Further down, he's saying if you have 0% interest credit cards for 12 months, liquidating them like with Plastique. So I've actually had a client do this. I wasn't their direct mentor, but I was their application specialist. And so I was kind of helping to implement it. I don't like to see that because you can get into some killing interest once that 0% interest period runs out. Also, if you're doing it with personal credit cards, that's going to tank your score. Now, if you're doing it with 0% interest business credit cards, they don't show up on your personal report. That there could be a strategy there, but still, you're running a lot of risk. I wouldn't do that. Some of these guys can speak more to that, but I do have some experience with running into trouble with 0% interest credit cards for investing. And so I can tell you from experience that it's very easy to get upside down on those things.
Yeah. Credit cards are totally different than utilizing HELOC in my perception. And I would only use velocity banking with a HELOC and not with credit cards either. So because of that 0% and switching it, and then it goes right up to 28%, you could get in a lot of trouble if you don't plan the right way. And that's.
And Ray saying, I'm sorry, are you familiar with the Rockefeller family and how they use trust and insurance to ensure generational wealth? And so, yes, we do refer to them all the time. So it sounds like you might be new to our channel, so definitely stick around. I think you'll like what we have to offer you.
Yeah.
And then actually real quick, since we're running short on time here, and if anybody wants to work with us directly, again, like we said earlier, you don't have to go find the companies. We have the relationships already. You go to mentors.beyourownbanker.com and you get on a calendar. You get on the calendar with one of us. Mike is saying, is it possible to get through underwriting for a new policy while pregnant? Wife and I will likely be in the middle of going for kid number 2. At the time, we'll be looking to get a policy on her, and he already has one.
Just got someone approved that was pregnant and just had her policy funded this week. So yeah.
No way. At what stage of the pregnancy?
Yeah, I did it last week.
Good question.
I'd say the only challenge I've ever run into with that is the gal had put on a lot of weight, which would have put her into a rated category. So that wasn't her normal, and so that would maybe be the only consideration is if there's weight issue, a lot of weight gain, maybe some issues medically going through pregnancy, but it shouldn't stop you from doing it. It's just some of those things need to be considered.
SML told me to wait till after her pregnancy.
Yeah,
it depends what the situation is there. I've had it go about half and half with my limited experience. So it can depend a little bit on that height and weight. And then also if there's any complications or like gestational diabetes, those things are just too much of a risk. They'll want to wait till after. But yeah, it's totally possible.
Okay. And then Matt had a follow-up question too, is when doing a policy for a newborn strictly as a legacy plan for them, wouldn't there be an argument for doing a 90-10 in the opposite 90 base because of the huge time horizon for capitalization?
Matt, I love your thinking. I love exactly where your thinking is. And I would say the challenge becomes that there's so much death benefit and they're so young that depending on how much death benefit you're carrying on your body, that can be prohibitive. Like I know, like I've designed the one we have for my 10-year-old is designed with 60% towards the base. And, most of the time we're designing 50-50s or 40% to the base. But some of that is just because of the amount, like it's shocking. Like if your kid's not even in the game, they're not even on the sidelines, they're not even near the stadium yet, it puts a ton of death benefit for a very small amount on them, which makes it prohibitive to design it over the long term. So your thought process is exactly right. It just depends on what we can do, what you're looking to do. It depends. How's that?
And most of us on the team, since in the past few years, what we've got, Devin's got a new baby. Chris had his daughter. Like our team, there's a lot of team help that like examples of what we've done the best that we possibly could for our children. So happy to share that on the phone call. Catherine saying,
to your question earlier today in our meeting, that would be a great topic, is to talk more about how they're designed, kids policies.
Yeah.
For a topic.
That's a really good idea. Catherine saying, I have a 69-year healthy female wanting to protect her retirement for inheritance. I looked at annuity and then I thought it might be smart to split and do an IBC or paid up whole life with 300,000. What are your thoughts? 600,000 annuity or split it with IBC or paid up whole life. So it sounds like Catherine is an insurance is like helping her clients.
Well, the first thing I'd say, and I don't have the link available, but on the wealth webinar replays, Chris did a retirement strategy session. I don't know, it's probably 6 weeks ago, but it was based on this document. I don't know if you guys can see this. Integrating whole life insurance into a retirement income plan. So what it talked about were two key concepts. One was the covered asset and then the volatility buffer. And Catherine, I think if you watch that session, a lot of these questions will get answered in a deep level, but thinking about if you have a 401k or retirement fund, a lot of times when you get into retirement, you can take some of that money and you could buy an annuity. That would be kind of your volatility buffer where you're building some income, some guaranteed income. And then you can bolt on a whole life policy. So think about this. When the market's down, you take the required minimum withdrawal from your retirement accounts, and then the rest of it could come from the whole life. So you've got that, the volatility buffer is the whole life policy. So you're going to be taking cash value from your whole life policy when the market's down, so you don't drain out and get a double whammy on your retirement funds. So those two things working in conjunction with your traditional retirement plans are pretty powerful. So
I think I actually just found the video while you finished making that point, so I'm going to put that in the chat.
Okay. But yeah, that was a great session, and actually it was a session. Chris took this white paper from a bunch of PhDs and alphabet soup behind their name, and they did a bunch of mathematics and study behind this. So it's really interesting. But I'd encourage you to watch that.
Love it. Thanks. And then Eve, this may be one of our last questions. We'll see. We might have room for another one. But Eve is saying, how many years in with a nasty 3% amortized loan does it make sense to stay in that loan instead of getting an all-in-one loan?
No. Get out of it as soon as you can. I mean, I've already changed 27 years into 3.5 to 4 years. So, I mean, getting out of mortgages, and depending on what the income is and how much equity there is,
all the hoops, depending on the hoops.
Just got to run through the numbers.
Yeah, and the only thing I would add to that, I agree with what Joe's saying, but the all-in-one, the first lien HELOC is a powerful tool. And if you're not financially disciplined, I would stay away from it because it becomes easy access to cash, and you're just going to blow it and make yourself in more trouble than you were. So this tool is for building wealth, not for having more money to go buy junk.
Yep.
That's a good point.
I love it.
Hey, that's us.
Yes. So again, to get with our team, you go to mentors.beyourownbanker.com. That'll populate our calendar. And then, Dexter, will you all be wearing BYOB exclusive t-shirt next week? Yes, they will. I've mailed them all a shirt.
What?
Yes.
Dexter, you just ruined my surprise, man.
All right. Any final words, guys? We got 5 more minutes.
Steven is enhancing the heck out of something. Enhance. I think we've had a good time. That was pretty fun. It went really fast.
Yeah. I know earlier I talked about the 3-day virtual and then the money take event. There is the landing page is probably getting its final touches, so I don't have a link like right today, but I will this time next week. But there's a 2-day advanced infinite banking like applied. So when I know Craig's working on, you probably see Craig present on equipment, but we're going to be talking about if you were buying a franchise, if you were general big purchases and all different ways to use it in your life or in your business. And that's going to be August 8th and 9th, probably 10 a.m. to like 4 p.m., 2 days, about 12 hours of education on using your policies.
And the session that I'm most excited about, I've been building this content for quite a while, but it's the buy term and best the difference. We're going to dig into a lot of history of how that even came to be, and we're going to go into a lot of the math on how that works and taking the gloves off. If Dave Ramsey wants to join us, I'd love to have him on the show with us.
Ooh, he's got some bravado, some confidence now. The planning must be going well, Craig.
Oh, it's just been something working on for quite a while, and really trying to take a very disciplined approach at it, because we're trying to really prove out what's going on with the buy term and best the difference approach.
Wait, you're thinking long term? That's weird.
Long term, and also just, I can't remember the term you used earlier, the devil's arithmetic, and we're going to get into some of the funny math of what goes on and how we're presented with a lot of these investments.
And I know we just said long-term. Actually, on Monday, Chris did a long-term care webinar, which every time I hear about long-term care, I'm just like, sign me up. I love it. That should be going live on the YouTube channel sometime in the next few days. So just keep your eyes out for that. And if you're not already subscribed to his channel, you can just subscribe, and I'm sure you'll see it pop up when it gets up there. All right. I don't know. Anything else?
Got nothing.
We're good.
Cool, guys. Thank you.
All right.
We'll close this out with a quick little fun video. All right, we'll use the real one to end with. See you guys. Bye.
Yes, James Kirk.